Good morning. Good morning. Looks like we are live. My name is Syya Yasotornrat.
And I'm Erin, Gregor.
And we are the co-hosts of the Afterglow LinkedIn Live Recap Podcast. So, as always, what are we recapping? Gosh, some days I'll just learn how to say my R's properly. We discuss Global Leaders Organization weekly speaker series. It is a business organization that invites amazing international speakers, thought leaders, business leaders who share their valuable concepts, action items, and food for thought. Basically, Afterglow is the podcast where we talk about it afterwards. So we invite a GLO member to join us and just, share our input, things that we think we would apply, things we wouldn't apply. So without further ado on that, we have our special guest today, Mr. David Saxby with Spark Communications. David, good morning.
Good morning, Syya and Erin. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. So real quick here, sir. David, tell us about Spark Communications. And also tell us why you are here, because you are the Calgary chair for GLO.
Yeah, well, Spark Communications, we're a marketing communications company. I spend a great deal of my time working with clients to develop marketing strategy, marketing and sales strategies, and help them innovate their business. And now's a great time for that because a lot of businesses are spinning out of control. Yeah. So my connection to GLO actually goes back to my speaking career, and I've been friends with Vince Pacenti for a long time, and of course Michelle Pacenti is the CEO of GLO, and so they contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in chairing a Calgary chapter, and it was right up my alley because I love working with business owners and business managers and CEOs particularly in helping them develop their future strategy for their business. So it was a great connection, and Calgary needs it. We're like the Texas of the North. We are in a oil recession up here, plus the COVID thing. So definitely a need for more effective strategies in getting businesses back on track.
No, absolutely. It is interesting times, and it's the fact that we've met, I'm thrilled that we have. I sometimes wonder, if it would have been nicer under different circumstances, but I do think sometimes challenges bring people together. And that's a perfect segue. So this week at GLO, by the way, every Thursday at 10 a.m. they do their speaker series. They invited Geoff Colvin, the senior editor at large at Fortune magazine. Erin, how thrilled and excited were you to listen to Geoff yesterday?
Yeah, Geoff was awesome. I'm going to back up for a minute, David, and I just want you to know how upset I am that because of COVID, we were going to go to Banff in May.
Oh, wow.
Wah, wah, wah. So hopefully next year. We're going to do October, but I don't think we can really plan anything for anyway. But anyway, I know where you live is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I can't wait to visit it. So anyway, back to your question, Syya. Loved yesterday's conversation. I'm looking at my very extensive list of notes that I took. And I think one of the things to pull out from it was there's a theme. He wasn't the first one to say this yesterday. There are going to be people who win out of this whole thing. Like, a lot of people are panicked. A lot of people are freaking out. A lot of people are trying to get through day to day. And then there are people trying to figure out, all right, how do we, I don't even want to use the word pivot, but how do we come out of this on top? Like he said, last recession, Best Buy Circuit City went into the recession, one came out. Linens and Things. I totally forgot about Linens and Things and used to shop there all the time. Linens and Things, wow. Bath and Beyond. 2 went in, 1 came out. So between you and your competitors, what are you going to do to be the one that comes out? And another thing that he said yesterday, which I thought was extremely interesting, and another great viewpoint, is there is not a soul on this earth or in business right now who has gone through this and knows how to navigate it. So by you taking the initiative to be the one that really truly figures it out, you're going to be a step ahead. Like you are on an even playing field right now, but it's time to figure out how to actually win. So very 2 important concepts that were probably the biggest things I pulled out of it.
Oh, wow. That was awesome. So, David, what about you? What did you think as well?
Well, I thought there was a lot of great points that he made, and a lot of good advice to business about, you know, how to deal with this situation. A couple of phrases stood out in my mind when he was speaking, and he said we were in the Snapchat version of the Great Depression. In other words, everything happened so darn fast that everybody's still trying to figure out what happened. And then the second phrase he used was we're in the dial-up version of recovery. And so I felt those were very appropriate. And, you know, everybody talks about pivot. And I was saying to some colleagues of mine, I said, we're not in the pivot mode. We're in the jig mode. Everybody's doing the dance. Nobody going in any one straight direction and all trying to figure out where to go.
That's so true.
Well, did you guys think this was interesting? Because when he talked about like basically like it was 45 or 48 months of decline that took to get to the Great Depression. We did it in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But to that, like, and he was saying, you know, it's just taking forever to recover. I'm like, is it really? Because like, should we really expect it to recover? Like we're what, April, May, June, July, like we're 4 months post, like, I mean, the stock market's going up. There's jobs that are high. I know not everything is back and I understand it's back, but it's like, do we really expect it to go, or the fact that it's climbing out? Is that, I was really surprised by that statement. That's all I'll say, I guess. What did you guys agree with that, or?
Well, I think the challenge is going to be, as many speakers have said, is we're heading into a new normal. It's not going back the way it was. And
can you call it next normal? I hate that word. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know, or just a new paradigm. I don't know. I'd rather hear paradigm shift than new normal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think one of the things that he said was very appropriate for everybody in this situation, and that is that we need to confront the new reality. Yeah. You know, we need to say, okay, this is not going to be the same when this all blows over. It's going to change. And he said, from the perspective of not as you wish it was, but as it actually is. And then from there, figure out what your business strategy is going to be, and maybe even change your business model. That was a key thing. And a lot of businesses, I mean, you look at the Kodak syndrome, right? For years, they thought they were in the film business.
Yeah.
And then it took them much longer than any other company in the camera industry to come out with a digital camera, and they tanked. Went out of business. And so, you know, it's that kind of a situation where people have to, you know, move quickly. Like with my business, for instance, I had half a dozen speaking gigs lined up between April 1st and the end of May, and they all went away. And I had been working on for a year with the 2018 turn down. I knew we were probably going to be in a situation where live speaking was going to tank. So I'd been working for a year on building an online business and doing business coaching. And when April 1 hit, I said, okay, time to push the button and go. And so we did. We put together an online coaching program and launched it. And so fortunately, that timing was good. I think the other thing that he'd said that was really powerful as well was focus on the big decisions. And I work a lot with businesses talking about innovation, but I also work with leaders to teach creativity and being able to think quickly. And one of the things that happens when we're in this panic situation that we are is our brain goes into fight or flight mode.
Right.
And we actually go use our primitive brain as a way of protecting ourselves from danger. So when it comes to making decisions, one of the biggest challenges is to get out of that primitive mode, fight or flight, and just say, okay, I've got to hunker down. I've got to do what I need to do to get moving and do something. And so, as he said, make the big decisions quickly. And I think that's really appropriate for a lot of businesses now.
You know, one of the other things about those decisions is there are ways of responding of waiting for more data.
Yeah. Particularly the analytical people.
Right. But in this day and age where we talk about big data, data analytics, right? The fact that we're looking at automation and looking at artificial intelligence. Hey, Erin, I'm hashtagging that, by the way, every step of the way. But but in this day and age where we are so data driven, are we going to become an analysis by paralysis culture from a business perspective?
Yeah.
Well, here's it. Can you trust the data right now? I mean, okay, let's look at COVID. I mean, can we really trust the data? The data, like everything is so out of sorts that yes, there's real-time data you can look at, but I think you have to be extremely careful of it right now, because the decisions you made off data 6 months ago, I don't know if you can make those same decisions, right? So I feel like if you wait for the data right now, you're going to sink. In my eyes.
Well, and from a data perspective, because I come from a marketing background, and one of the aspects of marketing that is important to most businesses, in fact, I'd say all businesses, is market research. But the thing is with research companies is they can take pieces of the data and make it look like the reality. And a good example of that, the whole COVID situation, what happened, particularly here in Alberta, was at first they were announcing the number of cases and the number of people that died and the number of people that were infected and so on. And then they started testing. As soon as they started testing, the data shot up and the number of cases and so on. But that was a false reality because they hadn't been researching enough detail at the beginning. So the numbers were skewed. And that's a danger with business too. Like you say, analysis by paralysis. Make sure that the data you're sourcing is the true reality. Then you've got enough facts to make a decision, because a lot of times we can make a decision based on a strategic thinking mode or our creative brain that is more accurate than the data will ever be.
Okay, so if we're going to be talking about data, and I think we're thinking in the terms of like immediate here. So Brian Little is a social studies teacher. So hey, Brian, just giving you a shout out. And I have a degree in history too. So there's that saying, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. So this is something that's somewhat unprecedented to us, or is it, right? Because there was a 1919 pandemic. There was, sorry, I know you're Canadian, David, but I think globally in World War II, everyone did hunker down together. Even as independent as the United States, people have their own, victory gardens and all that stuff. Do you think, based on that type of data and experience, can we even extrapolate learnings from that today?
I think there's certain, what shall we say, things that happen in history, and you're right, they repeat themselves, and human nature is to stay doing the same thing over and over again. And so I think, particularly in this day and age, with all the technology and all the source to information, we've really got to start to say, okay, where's this going to go the next time? And this was a point that was made by our speaker on the GLO network, was we need to be looking ahead to say, what did we learn from this now, and how can we apply it? I think that was a really important message, because with everything going on, it's not going to be the same. I mean, you look at the cyber world and how many attacks are now happening through the cyber network versus a war that happens in person. And how is that affecting us? While this pandemic's going on, there's all that sort of thing going on in the background too. So, I think the other side of it too is we have to be careful with media, in that, and I taught in a journalism department at a college for a number of years. I taught advertising to journalism students. And one of the things that I said to them is that the only thing that makes the news is bad news, generally.
Yeah.
So we have to look at the news media, and the good news is pretty flaky stuff sometimes. It's a cat climbed a tree and they got it down from the tree, and that type of thing. So I think we have to take media with a grain of salt. We have to look at where their skew is on information, and we have to make sure too, in a business, we have to be able to tell the right story about our business, about what we're going through. And one of the things that the speaker said yesterday was we have to make sure that when we're telling our corporate story that we tell it as a reality. And we get buy-in from our staff, we get buy-in from our suppliers, everybody else around us to tell the right story. So I think those are keys as well.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Go ahead.
I know, Mike, I agree too. Well, I don't want to go down this other rabbit hole, but I personally
don't get me started. Go ahead, Syya.
I don't. We're live, and I if you guys want to talk about my perspectives on other things, we can go offline on another podcast. Speaking of which, I keep forgetting. I keep telling you, Brian, I'm going to promote your podcast. So Brian Little, thank you for contributing. And he also mentioned, don't forget there was another pandemic that America faced and eventually overcame, the Dust Bowl as well. And his point being that we always bounce back again. But he is the host of the Blockhead podcast, which I think is great if you guys love all things UFC. Okay, that's my plug. I'm going to shift a little bit because this goes back to the COVID conversation, but back from a more business and what means everything to us. You guys, Geoff Colvin said, do not cut the price.
I wanted to make sure we talked about this because I thought it was super important.
Yes.
I mean, that's the knee-jerk reaction, right? And he made a couple of really great points. Like, you've got this bottom line that customers will remember, that bottom point, and you're going to be really upset as a customer if you paid $300 for something, excuse me, and then you're seeing them discounted at $250 or $200. They're totally diluting the brand. And he talked a lot about don't cut, because for every 20% of cost you cut, you have to increase sales by 25%. So you get in this, like, you're chasing your tail and you're working harder to make the same amount of money. And then people, I'm telling you right now, I've used this enough in my experience. The minute somebody starts asking you to cut your prices, run, because they are going to be the most difficult client. They're going to give you the most runaround. They're going to be the most unappreciative. They're going to have the highest expectations, and you are going to be in the fetal position trying to make them happy, and you never will. So that it's the last place you want to do is start trying to attract those types of customers. And, figure out ways to add value versus cutting costs. I thought it was I could just preach about this forever because I see people running into, let's just cut costs. Let's just cut. It's like, no, if they don't see our value, we know our prices offer a ton of value. If they can't see that, we're not a good fit.
Well, I think the other side of that too is if you need to be able to create more volume to bring in more business, the other aspect to it is look at how you can repackage what you do and still differentiate yourself in the market. And in my business, a prime example, what I did on stage presenting to people, I now can deliver through electronic means on the web, and I can offer the exact same value, but the price for the customer is less because I don't need to travel. I don't need to book a hotel. And it's much easier for customers. Plus, what I've done with my business, the coaching business, is I've created a do-it-yourself package. I've created a group coaching package so several businesses can share the cost, or I've got an individual package. So that's a way of working with your business to be able to still be able to offer value to the customers. In fact, exactly the same thing you did before, just in a different way of delivering the message. So there's another thing from that perspective as well, too, though, and that is there's so much online now. Everything is online. I get bombarded by emails and invites for webinars, probably 20 a day. And so how do we, and this is one of the things from a marketing strategic perspective that I try and do with clients is how do we differentiate ourselves? And the way we do that is we have to, first of all, disrupt. We have to break through the clutter out there. How do we get the message across to get that that idea in the brain of the customer so that they go, hey, this is good. This is different. This is unique. So yeah, cutting costs was a big flag that he mentioned, Geoff mentioned in his presentation for sure.
And I can't tell you, when I worked for a publicly traded company, every freaking quarter, we, for the lack of a better term, dropped our drawers every freaking time just because we had to hit the quarterly numbers. And I always got so frustrated as a sales professional that this is not about the relationship at this point. Now you just made what could have been a wonderful business relationship and partnership into a transaction.
Yeah.
Here's something that I thought he mentioned, which I think we do it or we don't do it. But the fact he brought it up really just, I think I'm pinning it up on my board in front of my forehead, I think, is, okay, if a customer is asking you for something, meaning, hey, business is struggling, is there any way you could discount it, or is there a way we can work together? I love the fact that he said, ask for something in return.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I mean, Erin, we were in a meeting yesterday and I was like, I want to ask for something in return. And that the funny thing is, those types of individuals are like, hey, we want to work together. Maybe I don't have the budget up front, but maybe if we can push it and work it, that to me is still a relationship without dropping your drawers, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Erin, we lost you.
Sorry, I had 2 mutes going, but you've got to create win-wins. Like you said, Syya, there's no reason for you keep just rolling with this, but to drop your drawer. There's no reason. Like if it is a win-lose, then don't do it, or lose-win. Don't do it. Like I never want to be in a situation where I'm taking advantage of someone either. And of course I never want to be in the position that I'm being the one taken advantage of, but it's just so important that you should be going in and valuing yourself enough and your business enough that, okay, we'll do it. Again, you just set yourself up for just a beatdown. It really is a beatdown.
Well, and the other side of that circumstance as well is if you can afford to work with other people who can provide the service at a lower cost, and you can pass that on to your customers, then you can adjust your pricing. But if you're taking a hit on your bottom line and losing profit margin, or even giving things away, then that's a downward spiral. So, and a good example of that, you look at the number of businesses now that have shopped things out overseas, and as a way of reducing costs. So that's another way of doing it. But just to drop your price just because the customer says I can't afford it is not the right strategy.
Right. So there's another thing too that I liked about it is good times are the time to build the foundation of relationships.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us talk about relationships, because that is another component of providing value, right? So he said, maintain discipline, and he said people practice, which I thought was an interesting term. What did you guys think about that when he said maintain discipline and discriminate between great and not so great performers? Like, actually, that's a different point. Let's go back. Maintain discipline of building the relationships. What do you think of that, David or Erin?
I think it's key. And what's interesting, I found when business took a downturn in 2018, and I think the U.S. experienced that as well, one of the first things I did is I went back to looking through my contacts, and I said, who haven't I talked to in a year? Who haven't I connected with? And started rebuilding those relationships. And it was funny enough that those turned into some business last year and this year. So I think the challenge for all businesses, particularly small businesses, is we're in the moment. We're working on whatever we're working on because we're trying to get the job done for the customer. And we fail to realize that there's people out there that need to hear from us that we worked with in the past, and things have changed. And maybe they could use our help again, or maybe they could use our support again in what they're doing, and particularly now in this situation.
No, it's interesting too. I'm just listening to a podcast, Tim Ferriss's podcast with Kevin Hart. And he talked about Kevin Hart and Kevin Hart's ability to really have a forward thinking. So, before, when Twitter was getting really big and email marketing was getting really big, Kevin Hart was that comedian collecting those email addresses and really building his Twitter following, thinking in the forefront, in the future. Like, yes, right now, I know it's good, but I'm always thinking bigger picture. And I think that's important for businesses, like especially business leaders. It is so easy to get caught in the weeds and just being busy. You're doing, and you're reacting constantly. But if you're not being proactive, especially right now, we are in we're reacting like crazy people. You are not being proactive in the good times, especially because it's easy to ride in the good times too, right? Everything's good. I don't need all these people are coming in. This is amazing. Well, that well dries up when a recession happens, right? But it's so important to always be thinking bigger picture and doing the things on a daily basis. And like he said, having that discipline that's going to build a bigger picture future for you versus get you some results today.
Okay. So we're getting a little bit close on time. So I want to make sure we get to another point. You guys, I loved it when he said, and Erin's going to laugh at this one, but I did resonate with me, which was, and he said this emphatically, you guys, manage your capital. Look at your opportunity cost and what you're doing with it in the good times. He wasn't talking about the bad times. He said in the good times, manage our capital. How guilty are we when monies are rolling that we're also throwing?
Yeah, we get into habits. This is the thing that, especially, and I would say this is a prevalent thing throughout North America, is we spend exactly what we make.
Yeah.
And both personally and in business. And the danger is, like you say, we haven't planned for the future. And when it comes to a tough time, it's very difficult to cut. It's very difficult to go back and say, well, I can't afford this right now. I just can't do this. I need to cut it down and do something else as an exchange for, cutting costs. So
I'm pretty anal about money. My thing is, here's why. Here's 100% why. In 2008, I had leveraged myself on real estate a lot and missed out on a ton of opportunity because I didn't have the cash sitting there. And I did okay. I made it through, but I wish I would have had that cash sitting there for the 2008 recession, because that's when you capitalize. So I learned my lesson. I'm not cheap, but I'm resourceful.
You're good. Erin is there's a reason why Erin and I are business, because she's extraordinarily good with money. Let me tell you, she reminds me of a certain other person. Okay. So, my partner, he's really good.
This is the fifth recession I've been through in business. I've been in business 40 years. And I tell you, you just can't be prepared enough for what's going on. And we have to sometimes give up things that we like or enjoy, simply to say, okay, if we don't, then the opposite is we just shut it down, walk away.
Yeah. Cash. Well, I know right now, especially, but cash is king. And I've been in those deals. There's one specifically where I needed the money. And when you need the money, you lose. You put yourself at a lesser advantage. So just again, I speak from a lot of experience in this subject. Go ahead, Ferry.
Well, yeah, no, I was just going to say, I agree. And Frank Gustafson just contributed too, which is, Frank, I think I'm feeling your pain just as much. He says he loves buying new business toys, tech apps. The struggle is real. I got to tell you, for me, in some ways, I feel like this pandemic has been good for me to reset, because I'm a huge concert addict. I love music. I will go to every live show. Erin knows this because we've done it so many times. We will go VIP, so just so we can get in the front row, meet the celebrity. Gotta get the pictures, Insta friendly. And I can't tell you, I'm not saying that it wasn't worth it, because for me, it's hella worth it. I mean, I launching an 80s and 90s podcast because I'm obsessed with music, but you do have to budget. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so painful for me. So I think this pandemic, it's really been helpful for me to level set, understand, look, there's a time and place to have some fun, if that makes sense. So we're wrapping up here, and I want to make sure we're respectful of the time, because I did say 30 minutes. David Saxby, thank you so much for joining us. For those that want to learn more about you and Spark Communication, how can they get a hold of you, sir?
They can reach me by email. So it's DSAXBY, my last name, at sparkcommunications.com, or 403-585-9870.
Ballsy. I mean, I can't say that word. Or gutsy. Gutsy. Phone number. I like it.
Yeah,
it's kind of old school.
I'm happy to talk with people. This is the world of helping each other out and hoping that we all come through this together. And I think that's one of the beauties as well. The reason we connected was GLO, and one of the beauties of being involved in an organization like that is there's people out there willing to help each other and turn things around and get back on track. And make things happen.
I love it. Erin, any parting thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm going to kick up a IME pitch to you. I did this last week, and I'm going to say this again because yesterday it was freaking incredible. I wish I could share my screen and show you all the notes. So if you go to withglo.com, you can sign up for a free membership, for a free or basic membership, I guess is what they call it. If you sign up for that, you get 2 free events that you get to watch. So every Thursday they're doing these. And I'm telling you all, if you're a business leader, you will have something you take away that you can apply. And it's just super important. Right now, we need this stuff more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last week's was amazing with Dr. Elizabeth. I can't remember her last name. Lombardo. Thank you. Yesterday's was amazing. There's your free 2. And you're probably going to be a little sad because there's a lot more that you should be watching, but I won't go there. Just take the free, but go do it. I'm telling you, it's no cost. You don't have to become a premium member, although we'd love for you to join Dallas or Calgary, but just do yourself a favor, do your business a favor, do your employees a favor, and go watch these events because they're truly worth it. That's all I'll say.
That's perfect segue on that too, Erin, because what I was going to say is, Geoff Colvin, he also said, you guys, everything that we've already discussed, he also said, continue to grow personally. And that's why Global Leaders Organization was such an attractive organization for me personally. We do live and die through the mantra of building a community and supporting one another. David, you're here, as a result. Mo Hassan from Miami joined us as well as a result. The fact that there's access to amazing, content, these speakers, that's what Afterglow is all about, to take these lessons in leadership from successful, business leaders and entrepreneurs, and how do we apply and become successful or more successful ourselves. And then the big last one is access to capital, right? So we're in a business where, hey, we're in a pandemic. Some of us might need some, investment. When is it the right time to ask for investment? When it's not, GLO will actually help you do that with the investment portal. And then of course, joining the chapters, right? So Calgary, you'll have David who kicks booty, and then Erin and myself here in Dallas, and there's many beautiful cities. Go to withglo.com and find that out. And you guys, another reason why, he says build relationships, podcasts, and these types of, interactions that we're doing here on LinkedIn Live. This is how you build relationships. They are long form marketing. This is where you actually get to learn the personality of the people that you're going to spend time with, to partner with, to, execute on whatever objective services, consulting, whatever it might be that you offer to a client. Now is the time to create content. We are social media heavy culture. So if you have questions, check out Innovation Media Enterprises. That's Erin and my business. David Saxby for all things with digital communications, speaking, all that online courses, etc. That's what David Saxby is an expert at. How do you leverage that technology to communicate more successfully and succinctly? On that note, you guys, I'm talking again. I ramble so much, but I get so damn passionate, excited. So thank you so much for joining us again this Friday. David Saxby with Spark Communication, Erin, Gregor, my beautiful partner and awesome partner. That wraps it up for another show of the Afterglow Live Recap Podcast.
Great
Bye,
to see
guys.
you both. Have a good one. Take care.